This is the Cubs POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Chicago Cubs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Locked On Cubs POSTCAST here on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. Joe George here with you as always as the Cubs win 6-0, shut out the Boston Red Sox. Shota Imanaga was fantastic. 5 home runs from the lineup today. Lots of fun stuff to get to on today's show. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All right, so the Cubs, 2-game win streak coming out of the break, 4 games straight overall, going back to the last 2 games of the Yankees series. You guys are welcome here in the chat here on YouTube. Let's see, Brando asks here in the chat right away if I got my camera figured out. I think so. I think we're all set now. Probably just jinxed it, but you know what? The Cubs won, so nothing can bring them down right now. Fun day at the ballpark on this one. Lots of stuff to get to on the show. We will start off with our Locked On Player of the Game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
No question about it for this one. Shota Imanaga, the Locked On Player of the Game today. 7 innings pitched of shutout baseball. Gives up 5 hits, no earned runs, 5 strikeouts, and 1 walk. His fastball looks better. The velocity is back to where you expect it to be. The splitter was working really well. The control is really good. He looks like he is back into what you expect from a typical Shota Imanaga performance. He's been good this year, but his last 2 starts have just been phenomenal. Against the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees, 14 innings pitched, 7 hits, 1 earned run, 11 strikeouts, and 2 walks. Those are ace numbers from your starting pitcher. So Shota Imanaga pitching like this, it just puts the Cubs on a different level of what they can do. With him and Boyd, the way they've been pitching, what you've been getting out of Colin Ray out of recent, those guys are really just performing at an elite level. And now you've won the first 2 games of this series. You're keeping the Brewers at arm's length as much as you can because they keep on winning baseball games. But all the Cubs can do is keep winning theirs. But the best part of this game, again, is just what Shota did. Just how good he's looked in the last 2 games. I think it adds to even, again, I think it adds to the excitement about the trade deadline. Just thinking about like what the Cubs can do, what they can add at the deadline. If you add a really good starting pitcher that can fall in line behind Boyd and Imanaga into the playoffs, like you feel really confident about what this team can do. And for, Shota to do it against the Yankees, who have so much power and pop in their lineup, and the Red Sox, who had won 10 straight games before the Cubs have beat them the last 2 games in a row, to beat both those teams in the way that Shota has, it's just elite level stuff that he has at times. And I think for me, like from a big picture conversation here, I'll be honest, I think Shota has, I don't think we ever really know what to expect when guys come from overseas. And like, we don't obviously watch that baseball very often, if at all, but he's surpassed every expectation and more ever since he's been a member of the Cubs. But these last 2 performances just feels like that's a guy that you can go out there and you can envision him on the mound in a NLCS, in a World Series game, in a Game 5 of the NLDS, like anything you need from him in the playoffs. Like you can envision Shota Imanaga on the bump with the ball in his hand and feel confident about what he's doing going into that performance. So just A+ performance from Shota today. But then the lineup was great too. I mean, they start this game off back-to-back home runs, Michael Busch and Kyle Tucker. The lineup change has paid off so well for Craig Counsell. I mean, we see later in the game, obviously, Ian Happ gets his home run. He does look much more comfortable with where he's hitting the lineup. Dansby looks more comfortable with where he's hitting in the lineup. But the top of it, I mean, having to face, when you're a righty, having to face Busch, Tucker, Suzuki, and Crow-Armstrong is such a deadly 1 through 4. The way those guys are hitting the ball this year, I mean, it is just elite level stuff. And they started, and Busch and Tucker just set the tone early on in this game. And then, Bello was really good. So the formula of this game is kind of similar the last 2 days, where the Cubs get on the board early. They kind of get shut down in the middle innings. Not a lot of guys on the base pass, not a lot of action. But then in the end of the game, when you need insurance runs, they came through. And the first one came from Matt Shaw. Pinch hit, home run. He's got 3 home runs on the year. 2 of them are pinch hits. Like, strange. But he has 2 hits in this game coming off the bench. So you get the home run from him, the home run from PCA, the home run from Ian Happ, 5 home runs in the game today. So your bats just come alive and they do their job and they give you insurance runs and they just lead to your bullpen, which, Keller and Brazier come in, they face 6 guys and they strike out 5 of them. And Keller looked fantastic in his performance. So, having 2 sets of back-to-back home runs, but just 5 home runs overall, like it kind of shows the different ways, again, the Cubs can win. We saw more in yesterday's game, the small ball stuff, where it was like they were moving guys over. What I find interesting, too, about the last 2 games is the aggressiveness from Quentin Berry at third base. Because, my gosh, again, a sac fly in which Dansby Swanson is humming as he's heading to home plate with a great slide to get in there. Ian Happ yesterday. I think it was Ian Happ yesterday. Dansby Swanson today. I mean, they're pushing it of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, I'd say. But last 2 days, it's worked out. It's worked out great for them. So 2 great plays there from your base path, from your third base coach and the runner on base. But that was a great slide by Dansby Swanson. So lots and lots of good stuff there. Yeah, Brujan with the sac fly there. I find it interesting that Shaw too also was used in that pinch hitter role. With Brujan out there, kind of surprised that Shaw honestly just didn't start today with the way that he hit the ball yesterday. But obviously, and he comes in today and he hits the ball very well in his at-bats that he has in this game. And obviously, it's a tough matchup for the Cubs tomorrow to try to get the sweep facing one of the best pitchers in all of baseball and Garrett Crochet, a guy who's going to be towards the top of, the AL Cy Young finalists this year. And, the Cubs have struggled against aces. The Cubs have struggled against lefties. So you get Crochet in this final game of this series, and you can really, get the vibes rolling for Cubs fans. If you can get a sweep of the Boston Red Sox here, that would be awesome. All right, a couple questions and comments here before we go to break. We'll get more on the other side as well. Eric says, Joe, could you imagine saying this about the bullpen back in April? No. I had a note on my Google Doc that had said the Cubs bullpen had given up 8 earned runs or more 4 times. It was highlighted in red. I've deleted that because that team in April, that bullpen in April, is not this bullpen now. These guys have really come together. Whoever the guys they've added, the guys they've found, like Pomerantz, have really come out there and performed really well. And I think we talked about this yesterday's show before the break with Keller, with his performance to come back out there today to strike out the side. If you get him back into form after a couple bumpy outings before the break, it just adds to that depth. I mean, he's got a 3.07 ERA now. Brazier is a guy that we don't talk about really at all. He's got a 1.04 ERA on the season. And I feel like he kind of just gets completely ignored with the success stories that have all happened in the bullpen because there's been so many of them. See, Ryan asks, Joe, what's your guess for a trade to happen? He said he thinks the Cubs need to jump on everyone. Get the jump on everyone. Yeah, I mean, Jed Hoyer said that he expects the trade deadline to really pick up the days leading, the hours leading into the deadline. It really sounds like right now, if you want to make a move, you're overpaying in a major way. So my guess is we're gonna be waiting that final week. In about 6-7 days is really when it feels like that the trade stuff will heat up, not just for the Cubs, but for all of baseball. It's just very quiet right now. There's a lot of teams like the Diamondbacks that got to figure out who they are over the next 7 days and really before the deadline gets here. So I do think we'll be waiting a little bit for the trades to come in. All right, we'll take a quick break here. We'll get to more of your comments, your questions here in the chat. So if you got it, you can drop them in here live on YouTube. If you're listening to the audio version of the show, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, hit us up there on all social media platforms at Joe George Radio. All right, we'll be right back here on the Locked on Cubs postcast. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like a must-watch event. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, quickly here, just to highlight we kind of hit on everything in this game so far. I mean, Shota was phenomenal. The lineup, the home runs were awesome. The sac fly, good defensive plays. Like, the only real poor defensive play was Shota, trying to spin and throw. That wasn't great, but it doesn't do any damage. It's the only time really where Shota had any chance to really get it going. I guess the top of the first, he gives up a leadoff double, I think on the first pitch of the game, and then gets the next three guys, gets a ground out to Bregman, and then strikes out the next two batters. But yeah, they're in the top of the seventh. So it's single and then an infield single with the terrible throw for Shota. So it's first and third with two outs. But then he gets the pop out to Nico Horner and the inning's over. So even in the one opportunity, really, or I guess two opportunities, the Red Sox really had there to score runs against Shota, he shuts it down immediately in this game. All right, let's see here in the chat. Eric also said, I remember when Stressley gave up those 6 runs against the Giants in extra innings. Yeah, Ryan Presley, yesterday was a little stressful, but he's looked really good as well. Again, just a little bit more on Matt Shaw. I said this on yesterday's show, so I want to kind of revisit this just a little bit for people that didn't catch yesterday's show. I really think he is he's just the most interesting guy on the roster now. Again, I don't think he can play well enough over the next, 10 days to change the front office's mindset, but maybe prove me wrong. And if he really has adjusted his swing in any way, the way he swung the bat the last 2 games, it's really would be interesting to see if that changes the Cubs' direction and thought process for what they would do at the deadline. Again, I don't think it will, but I also don't think they're going to trade Matt Shaw. So, it's more, it would be a sign of what can come still down the road, I would say, for Shaw. So that's all still, very, very positive for him. He's really he's rolling right now the last 2 games, and his defense has been fantastic this year. And that to me is where it still is sold out. It's been so good for him to where, I do think that, like, when you think about the Cubs acquiring a third baseman, I do think that's an important part of it is, when you look at the Cubs right now, you've got Gold Glovers in left field, right field, shortstop, second base. And you've got guys who are going to win Gold Gloves this year, like Crow-Armstrong. And Matt Shaw has played Gold Glove level defense. So even though you want to add to this lineup, and for sure, I think that would be important to do so if you can for the right price. I also don't want to see the Cubs, give up big time defensively at third base. Because I think back to earlier in the season when it's like Gage Workman, and not to beat him up, but beat up on him, but him and Birdie and those guys were struggling. The Cubs having this elite level defense is something that can absolutely carry them, through this stretch. So the other part of this game, mentioned it quickly, but just seeing what the bullpen's been doing again, they've been so fantastic. Keller 3 up, 3 down. Brazier gives up 1 hit, but 2 strikeouts himself. It's also kind of just like what I was saying about Imanaga earlier in the show about in the playoffs. Right now, a lot of these guys really just, keep on coming up and just going out there and just doing their job. And even though Stressley at times is still living there, it does feel not even just from where it was at the beginning of the season to where it is now, but just overall, when the Cubs are up in a game, it's a tight game, there's still just a level of confidence that I feel, at least watching when the Cubs bullpen guys go out there. It feels like no matter what the situation is, if they would have taken Shota, I know the broadcast thought Shota was coming out after the bad throw. They obviously kept him in there, but anyone that Craig Counsell throws out there right now that Porter Hodge is gone, unless Wicks is out there, for the most part, it's been excellent. The only time the bullpen arms have really struggled in the last 2 weeks has been when they've been forced to be in these bullpen games as the Cubs are trying to fill, Tyon spot in the rotation. So outside of those games, the bullpen has just been, it's good. And they said on the broadcast, if you missed it, the Cubs have the second best ERA from their starters in the month of July. Now, I know you have a couple days off there with the All-Star break, so it's not a full sample size month, but the Red Sox are number 1 and the Cubs are number 2 with what they've got out of their rotation this month. So their entire pitching staff is just going out there and pitching just absolute gems on a really consistent basis. And again, like we'll see Kate Horton tomorrow on the mound versus Garrett Crochet. It would really, I think, set the tone for, I think, what can come the rest of the season if you can get to Crochet. Like, just, again, a guy that you've struggled against lefties, you've struggled against aces, go out there. If they can get the win against Crochet and hit him around a little bit, even if it's what they've done the last 2 games, which is just be aggressive, get to him early, wait it out till the Red Sox bullpen gets in, break the game open, and get the sweep would be an absolutely a great spot to start the second half of the season. David says here in the chat, please no more bullpen games. Okay, said the same thing. No more bullpen games. Yeah, I think I think we're going to have at least a couple more before the All-Star break, unless they surprise us and bring someone up while they wait for a trade to happen, or as we found out, the return of Javier Assad, which sounds like is going to happen in August. Him and Miguel Amaya both sound like the plan is for them to be back here in August at Wrigley Field and for the Cubs. So, that's another wrinkle too, where if you add to the rotation now and then Javier Assad comes back up and, however he contributes to this team, it just can add even more to what the Cubs can do this season. All right, that will do it for this episode of the Locked on Cubs postcast. I will be taking an off day from the show tomorrow. I'm taking my son to go see some monster trucks at the Toyota Center. So I will be doing that tomorrow. So I'll be back on Monday's game after the game then. So thank you for watching. Enjoy the game tomorrow. We will talk to you on Monday night. Peace.